Hey guys, Tarke here, and I've touched on this a few times in other videos, but in today's video I want to talk about Pathfinder, the state of Pathfinder, and why I think that Pathfinder is the best ascendancy for pretty much any generic attack-based bow build. Now obviously there will always be outliers, there will always be exceptions. I'm playing Course to Carry at the moment, obviously Course to Carry there are better options, but I think that Pathfinder, it has the potential to be amazing for basically every single type of attack-based bow build, and it patches up the problems which most bow builds struggle from. So the main weakness, in my opinion, currently in bow builds is actually mobility. Because of the cooldown on Blink Arrow, and Blink Arrow's speed being attacked to having either, faster attacks, faster projectiles, stuff like that linked onto it, you're in a situation where you're trying to do your thing, and Mr. Whirling Blades, Mr. Shield Charge are just zooming, and you're kind of like, I'm kind of being left in the dirt. Now, bow builds obviously have the amazing potential for single target with the current state of Barrage. They can do stupid shenanigans with poison, they can do stupid elemental shenanigans, very good AoE clear, very safe off-screen, but mobility is the big down point. Now, a lot of builds have been doing the whole Queen of the Forest thing. I've been trying out Queen of the Forest myself this league, and briefly, when I was doing my champion super evasion scaling stuff, we had about 190% movement speed with perfect gear, max level grace, and a lot of the stuff could have gone up to about 220%. I don't want to stress this too much, I've talked about this in other videos, but that made it feel good. Now, if we think about Pathfinder builds, if you have a well-rolled Quicksilver with increased effect, reduced duration, and 30% movement speed, getting all the flask effects, getting Nature's Adrenaline, you can very, very easily get like 160, 170% movement speed, no investment on your gear. The only thing you need is a well-rolled Quicksilver and having the Pathfinder notes. Now, if you think about everything that, King of the Forest builds sacrifice to run a Queen of the Forest, sure, Queen of the Forest is a good evasion chest that has good life and it has tri-res. That's a pretty good chest. However, it doesn't give you stupid amounts of life, it doesn't give you Combs level of defense, it doesn't even give you Belly of the Beast level of defense, it doesn't give you any indirect mitigation like Kintsugi, it doesn't give you poison, it doesn't give you additional curse like Cospreys, it gives you movement speed, but it doesn't even give you that much more movement speed than if you were a Pathfinder. So that's kind of that just off the bat. You could argue that Queen of the Forest enables you to have good enough movement speed that you can then use other ascendancies, but you're then locked into playing life. Now, we all know the current state of life is far from ideal. I play life builds, infinite amount of life builds. I much prefer playing life to CI, I avoid CI as much as possible, but CI is just better than life at the moment. Why is CI better than life? You get like double the effective HP. Effective HP is the best form of mitigation because, having loads of endurance charges is great against physical damage, but then you get randomly one-shot by elemental. Having stupid max elemental res is brilliant, but then you get randomly killed by a degen or fizz or a bleed, or just the more HP you have, the more reaction time you have to everything in the game. Effective HP is king. CI has the most effective HP. CI also has the advantage of running 5 flasks, not needing to worry about life flasks. It also has Wild Discipline, so on and so forth, so on and so forth. Basically, CI is good. So, if you want to do the most acclaimed bow build, the hot meta right now is King of the Forest. King of the Forest is you do Poison Barrage and Assassin, use Queen of the Forest, get Deadly Infusion, get Toxic Delivery, Barrage, everything melts. So if you want to do that as CI, then you have a tree which looks something sort of like this. And you go, well, yeah, this seems fine. It has good enough energy shield, has loads of damage, has a bunch of jewels, gets all the leech. What's not to love? So how do you get poison? There's kind of awkwardness with Assassin, is that Assassin is suited to being energy shield based, yet it wants to be poison. Now, you do get some chance to poison through Noxious Strike, and if you get Teddy Techniques, you get some chance to poison here. So you could rely on just having 65% chance to poison, and you could argue 65% chance to poison with Barrage is enough. But is it really enough? Not really. it's okay, but it's not great. So you go, okay, well, you know, just use snakebite gloves. You can use snakebite gloves as an energy shield build. Plenty of people used to use face breakers, malagaros, and you know they didn't give stupid amounts of energy shield. So you can get away with running low energy shield gloves as CI, and it works. But it's not very good for hardcore. You'd much rather have just, you know, juicier, well-rounded pieces everywhere. So you say, okay, fine. Well then, run a cost. Yeah, no, you're not going to run a cost breeze because you need energy shield on your chest. So even though you have potentially higher damage output with, you know, the 100% more poison with crits and all this other stuff, if you do it as a Pathfinder, you get to be CI still, you get better flasks, you get better movement speed because you can do CI and still have the movement speed of a Queen of the Forest build, you get poison for free, and you can then have more rounded gear pieces. So that's kind of my argument for why I think Pathfinder kind of, it wins over Assassin in some cases for like the go-to meta poison build. Okay, so you say, before we drop the whole, you know, poison package completely, the other like really good poison option is Berserker. Now the main thing which is really good about Berserker is obviously the 40% more damage and the access to all of this amazing leech. Now, if you do poison-based Berserker build, which I've done, you sort of come down through the tree, do this, come down this way, come through this way, and nearly every single case you actually end up routing directly past Vitality Void, and that feels bad. One of the best things about Berserker is getting this super leech, yet if you're playing a life-based bow build, you're having to route past the leech, so it kind of nullifies this a little bit. Yes, you can do shenanigans where you kind of route up this way, get skill effect duration, then come up through evasion. You can do stuff where you route through strength, convert all your strength into int, come up this way, get skill effect duration, go through energy shield, and you can do CI Berserker. And sure, if you're doing a CI poison Berserker, then, you know, that leech feels good. But in a vast majority of bow-based Berserker builds, the leech gets somewhat wasted from easy access to Vitality boards. So that kind of knocks it down a peg or two. And it still has the mobility issue. And the mobility issue really is key. Right, so let's talk more generally. Let's not focus on bow builds. Let's just talk about raw defense. So you play a champion and you go, oh, cool, I'm playing a champion now. And through the champion, I get, you know, this damage reduction. I have access to Conqueror. I get more damage reduction, get some damage, or get some movement speed. And you then say, okay, well, you're playing a duelist. You have kind of inefficient start. Getting attack speed is fine for an attack-based build. Getting this life is fine for a life-based build. But it doesn't feel that good. Nearly every single bow-based build goes into a ranger start anyway, whether it's, you know, poison-based or elemental-based. So it's just a case of 1 point. You then have access to 2 very good projectile nodes, which are very awkward to get into unless you're filling in this whole wheel. These 2 nodes are incredibly efficient. So that's just a good thing, just purely talking about ranger start. You get all of this defense, right? You don't really get much damage. You don't get much support for elemental. You don't get much support for poison. You don't get that much support for pure physical. You do get this fortify. Well, if you do it as Pathfinder Reno, you get 8% reduced elemental damage taken. This counts as max res. This is incredibly amazing in minus max maps. So this is already pretty PogChamp. All of this flask effect, doesn't matter which way you route through the tree, if you get Master Arquist, if you get Veteran Boa, it doesn't matter which way you do it, all of this flask effect makes your Basalt amazing, it makes your resistance flasks amazing. This gives you comparable levels of defense to Fortify. Yes, your flasks need to be active, but this gives you very good defense still, and it also gives you the super utility and gives you the offense. So I feel like it just kind of beats out Champ. Okay, so let's talk about purely elemental builds. Well, there's always that dude, doesn't matter what kind of build I'm saying, they say, oh, be a chieftain. So you're doing some sort of, you know, signal fire based, pure fire bow build, right? So you do it as a chieftain. And you come through this way, you get some damage, some life regen, some chance to ignite, some damage, some life regen. You get some leech. We've already discussed that you can get better leech as Berserker. You can get more damage as Berserker. You need to get leech from the tree. You get 10% fire pen. You can get 10% pen as a Pathfinder. 20% of fizz as extra fire if you've killed recently. That's pretty good, but you can also get that as a Pathfinder. 1% of damage dealt by your totems to leech to you as life. Good if you're doing Siege Ballista, otherwise pretty wasted. You then say, okay, well you can then get Ramako Sun's Light, which gives you some regen-based endurance charges and a chance to get endurance charge on kill. That's actually good. The endurance charge generation, sure, Chieftain, great. What do you then do to spend your last 2 points? You kind of have to just get this, and it gives you some resists, and it gives you some percent strength, but in most cases you're not going to be doing iron grip based stuff. So no, this is bad. You get more damage, more leech doing this. You get more defense doing this. You even get more damage doing this. You get more elemental scaling doing these two. You get better chance to ignite through a Master Alchemist, giving you 20% chance to ignite versus the 15 from Chieftain. You get 10% of Fizz as extra damage of random elements. You get that 10% pen. You get the extra flask charges gained. This is better. It just is. You also have better routing. You're not out of the way. You have options of doing life. You have options of doing CI. So on and so forth. So we say, okay, let's move on to the next option. Raider. So with Raider, you get Frenzy Charge stuff. You get Avatar of the Veil. You have the option of Onslaught, but most cases you do Avatar of the Veil plus Avatar of the Slaughter. So Evasion, Movement Speed, pretty good. You get chance to dodge, obviously powerful. Phasing, obviously powerful. And chance to get phasing on kill. Evasion, Movement Speed. Elemental damage, you get the same amount of elemental damage from Master Alchemist. Increased movement speed while phasing. We've already established the movement speed you get from this. Immune to status ailments, you already get that as Master Alchemist. And then 10% spell dodge. The spell dodge is like the one thing where you go, okay, the spell dodge is a spell dodge, and the attack dodge is like the big advantage of Raider. However, that's all indirect chance-based mitigation. This is raw mitigation through stuff like Nature's Boon, through just pure flask effectiveness. You can run a increased effect quartz flask and get, you know, stupid amounts of dodge this way if you really want to. And most Raider builds run a single quartz flask to activate all their phasing and stuff. So you kind of get beat from that. Okay, well, what about Frenzy Charge Generation? The Frenzy Charge Generation is a very good point. So you get the Frenzy Charge on kill and Frenzy Charge on hitting a unique or rare. It's not shown in this. And then you get some movement speed, better movement speed here. The attack speed is an advantage you get, and the attack damage is obviously an advantage you get. However, if you're doing a poison-based build, you then need to fit poison into the build. You don't then have this issue here. The only time where I feel like Raider is better than Pathfinder, and it's still kind of arguable, is as pure elemental. Because with pure elemental, you get obviously the use of the elemental scaling, you get the attack damage scaling here, but the big issue you have is, you know, if you look at signal shot style builds, just use this tree as an example. If you look at like pure elemental based bow builds, they often have a very hard time against Reflect, like a very, very hard time against Reflect. And Nature's Boon actually helps against Reflect. Nothing here really helps that much. You get a little bit of evasion scaling, but it's not guaranteed, and the problem is with, you know, dodging or Reflect with evasion, unless you're Volpacked, you're just going to randomly gimp yourself at some point. So even this is kind of like, it's the closest combatant, I would say, but still it has some severe weaknesses. Let's talk about Deadeye. So Deadeye is like the really good option for I'm going to do a league start. I did my Voltaxic as a Deadeye, and Chain is really good. Chain gives a very nice map clear, but the map clear gets beaten by Pathfinder's movement speed. Proj damage, attack speed, come through this way. Accuracy proj damage, 30% more, obviously very powerful. Accuracy proj damage, endless munitions. So it gives some accuracy, fixes your problems if you're crit, gives you some AoE. Obviously very nice for some skills, extra proj, obviously very good for something like Barrage. So, you know, there is some serious potential here. But if you want to be that guy, and I'm going to be that guy, you get better stuff through a Dying Sun, and make a super Dying Sun with a Pathfinder. Beats out Deadeye. You then get Powerful Precision or Rupture. In most cases, you just get Rupture because it gives you, you know, the crit multi. Moving while bleeding doesn't cause you to take extra damage, while you can get straight up bleed immunity with Master Surgeon. Well, through all your flasks and stuff. You also get better flasks, just passive gain on bosses, and this is a very big thing. If you're a crit-based build, which most bow builds are, and you take Master Surgeon, you can actually sustain somewhat on bosses. You're not in a constant state of, I need to burn through all of my portals. basically, and this isn't new news, but Pathfinder just does everything that everything else does. It doesn't necessarily do it better. Like, there is the example of Assassin. There's the example of Super Leech from Berserker, where, you know, stuff can pull ahead slightly. There are the off-flyer. Sometimes you see some, you know, wonky occultist builds. I would argue that occultist energy shield bow builds do a better job of doing poison than Assassin, but, you know, that's just a personal thing. So there are obviously some outliers, but general rule of thumb, if you are planning a bow build anytime soon and you're trying to pick about an Ascendancy, just go for the obvious choice. Go for the Pathfinder. Pathfinder is bae. I'm Tarke. This is a video. I still have no internet. Have a good day. Bye-bye.